order, or this is just it's not an official meeting. What do we call this one? What do we call this?
Workshop.
Workshop? Call our workshop to order. It's confusing when we're at the dais for a workshop. I'm all out of sorts. So this is an opportunity for us to discuss city attorney recruitment. You guys should have all received a package that had the 6 qualified resumes and applications of the 12 total that we received. And I'll turn it over. Are you gonna run this part, or Kim, or me, or?
We're just gonna a few words.
Go for it.
Just a few words. A couple of briefings ago, Deputy City Manager Nelson talked to you about a proposed process for how we would go through the selection of the next city attorney. The first few steps have been completed, and that was to do the advertisement, go through the applications, determine which ones meet minimum qualifications, and provide the packet of those applicants to you for consideration. At this point in time, we would like to get guidance from council as to how to proceed with the next step. Given the fact that there are 6 candidates that meet minimum qualifications, the direction that you give us could range anywhere from not wanting to even talk to any of the 6 to telling us that there are 2 or 3 that you would like to have brought in for finalist interviews, and anything and everything in between. We could do Zoom interviews. We do have a candidate that is from outside of the state of Florida. We could shortlist tonight and decide who it is that you want to talk to, and you can determine the method in which you would like to communicate with them and continue the interview process. So really, the HR Director, Kimberly Bennett, and I are here to answer any questions you might have, but it's really for council to have the discussion of how you would like to move forward with the next step of the process.
Thanks, Mike. So those options laid out, we've got a few things we can do. Do we want to move forward with 6? Do we want to narrow it down? Do we want to re-advertise? Does anybody, and for those of you that are new to council, 2 of the applications are reapplies that we did consider in the last round of interviews. So I do agree if we do go forward with interviews, at least preliminary interviews can be done on Zoom so that we can have a level playing field for everybody. But what are your thoughts so far? If you guys would use your lights too. Sorry, it's formal, but just so we don't talk on each other. Dan?
So you said there's some of these who are reapplies? I didn't catch that when I was going through which ones were reapplies.
The term reapply that she's using is 2 years ago when the city did its recruitment for the city attorney process. 2 of the candidates that have been shortlisted were also candidates at that time, back in 2019.
Okay.
Those candidates were Cherry Shaw Pollock and Denise May.
And that wasn't a statement of opinion. That was just so that you guys know, that there some members of the council, may or may not want to re-interview them based on that. Any other comments? It's going to be a quick meeting. Ms. Dumont?
It's with 6, I think that is a very doable number to do Zoom interviews. So I think we'd have a better understanding of personality, qualifications, just feel for them. 6 isn't onerous. How many did we do last time?
5.
5, yeah.
There were 6 shortlisted, and council took it down to 5 for face-to-face interviews.
And those were face-to-face. These are Zoom, so it's even less onerous this way. So I would say all 6 who are qualified, who meet all of the criteria, we should chat with them all.
Ms. Golding?
I would agree with that.
So at this point, current consensus is that we feel like we do have qualified candidates. We don't feel like we need to reopen the application process, and that we want to go ahead and move forward with setting up Zoom interviews with all 6 of the qualified applicants. Anybody feel differently? So we would all be in person for the Zoom interview, and the applicant would be?
That was going to be the next question, was working through some of the logistics. The first question is, how much time would you like with each candidate?
For a preliminary interview, I mean, 20 minutes would be enough for me, I feel, with each candidate, knowing that we would bring our top two into an in-person interview. Mr. Jansen.
Can we make it a little bit longer, and if it's shorter, it comes up shorter, that's fine?
We could do that.
That way we're not cutting ourselves short. 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever, and then, I don't know.
Ms. Dumont.
I think we have to think about all 7 of us asking a question and how much time that's going to allot, and I don't think 20 minutes would fill that in. I would say a half hour to 40 minutes with a little bit of a break in between, I think would be doable.
If you'd like, we could block out 45 minutes per interview with a 15-minute break in between each of them. And that would allow, I think, for enough questions to be asked. If we ran up to the 45, you'd still have a little bit of a break between candidates.
So you're talking about a 6-hour.
That was going to be my next statement, was 45 minutes per candidate would end up being a 6-hour interview session, which means we'd also have to do a break for lunch. So you'd probably have 3 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon.
And so if we're going to do Zoom, we'd be at home versus all of us here with a big screen in the middle, us looking at the
That was
person.
going to be my next question on logistics, but I'd like to get the amount of time with each candidate nailed down first.
I would go, 20 minutes may be too short, but this is a screening interview. This isn't the hiring, this isn't the interview we're going to base the hiring decision on. So I think we need to keep in mind that this is just an introductory opportunity to look at somebody not just on paper. Ms. Golding.
Well, my concern is that the screening still needs to be, there needs to be some degree of due diligence in it. I mean, because I don't want to exclude somebody just based off of a really short, 20 minutes when they, if we do a longer interview, we would find that they've got a lot to offer. So, I mean, I lean towards, even though it's a screening, taking our time because it's a really important position, and I want to make sure that we're not excluding somebody that would be a really good fit.
Mr. Jansen.
Yeah, I'm back with what Georgette said, that if all 7 of us are asking questions, it's going to chew up some time pretty quick. But as far as your last question, I'm flexible either way. Whether we do it Zoom from home or we do it in person, I'm flexible. Either way is good with me.
Mr. Mesa.
Question for you guys that were here last time. How did the first screening go with the candidates? Were there 20 minutes, 15 minutes?
We did not have an initial screening. When we got to this point in the process, there were 6 candidates that met minimum qualifications. After discussion, there was 1 candidate that was removed from consideration. Council directed us to proceed to final interviews with all 5 remaining candidates. So that was held in person over the course of 1 full day.
Okay.
And we did a group interview where we each asked consistently the same question, and then we had one-on-one interviews with each of the candidates when we were in person. Ms. Dumont.
Thank you. I do a lot of hiring. I just finished chairing a committee to hire. You can usually get a good feel within 30 minutes or so, and this is hiring by committee, so it's kind of like hiring by council. So you can get a good feel for a person within the first 30 minutes. I wouldn't say the top 2. I would leave that up to after we do the initial to see how many we actually want to meet face to face. I don't want to narrow it down to 2. It could be 3, it could be 4, it would most unlikely be 6.
If I said 2, I was just using a numerical example for the purposes of having a numerical example. Ms. Golding.
I just wanted to comment on, in follow-up to what you said to Mr. Mesa about the process. And maybe this is not the time to say it, but I liked what we did, and I did like the opportunity to do the one-on-ones with the candidates too, so I'd like to see us do that this next time.
Okay, so I think that we are at 6, probably 30-minute Zoom interviews where we may or may not be in our living rooms. Have we decided? Is there any legal HR obligations to all, on this at all? Okay. So if there isn't, then I would say we take them from anywhere. There's no reason for us all to be in the same place. Unless there is, that I'm just missing. I do think we need to have a little bit of a strategy session beforehand to determine who's gonna ask what questions and how we're gonna handle that. But that doesn't have to be done in person necessarily either.
Now, being a public process, and the fact that you're going to be doing it through Zoom, we may have to announce it as the equivalent of a meeting and allow for public input or something along those lines. So we'll do the research and make sure that we have the right format set up. With regards to questions, how would you like the questions to be asked of the candidates? How would you like those questions to be derived?
We had a really good list of, was that for city attorney? We got a list of sample questions, and I think we all just kind of picked which ones we were gonna ask, or was that city manager? I went here for that one.
So would that be the same list of questions that was asked last time at the face-to-face? Because if so, I'm sure that Ms. Bennett could go back into our files and probably find what those questions were, and at least pull those out as the first pass of what the questions would be, which means we would then develop different questions to ask during the face-to-face when you're doing the group interviews.
As I recall, there were like 40 questions, so there's plenty to choose from. And I think we can just come up with a consistent format of tell us a little bit about yourself, and then just each person have a chance at one, and maybe have a backup if we have more time.
Okay.
But we need to ask each candidate the same questions, correct?
You should.
Okay.
Should.
Ms. Golding?
What about you, would you recommend some good screening questions, perhaps? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe that's what we need to do. I mean, I know that I looked up, IMLA had questions that they recommended, and there was a long list of questions. Maybe if you wanted to look at the IMLA suggested questions and maybe come up with a subset that you think would be good screening questions that you could propose, and then.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll find the ones that you used last time, and I'll also do that, and I'll send them all, I'll give them to Mike. Questions for both. Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Dumont?
Thank you. Yes, I agree with all the questions, 30 minutes, more than happy to have it at home, and just to confirm, yes. Same questions, same order, same people asking the questions for each candidate, so you can do comparables.
Would you like to stick with 7 questions, 1 per council member?
And the last question should always be, do you have any questions for
Okay,
us?
I do have a follow-up. I don't recall having to do this for the last hire, but do new council members have to go through a training as to what you should not be asking about? There's a whole bunch of things you should not be asking about when hiring someone. So I don't know if they have to do some kind of a training, or if you just send out a little caution questions.
We can have the HR director get with any council members that would like some refreshers on what you can and cannot ask during an interview process. My guess is you may have a punch list or a bullet list that we could provide to all council members just to make sure that we're all on the same page. There are certain topics that you cannot ask an individual about and consider that into the hiring process.
Mr. Jansen?
Yeah, I sat on the oral boards for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office in the hiring process, and that's exactly how Councilmember Dumont was explaining it. They gave us a list of, I think it was 10 questions, and they had to stick with that. However, the one caveat that we had in the process, if you ask a question and they open the door to another question that's related to it, then you could go through that door. But you couldn't, all the cautions of what you cannot ask were on the table. So.
And is there a better day of the week or time of the day that works well for at least the 5 that are here? I'm presuming that we would try to set these up back to back. If we're talking 30 minutes each and 6, that's basically a 3-hour window with gaps, that's basically 4 hours. Do you want to do 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, or push them all through in the morning, or push them all through in the afternoon?
Mr. Mesa?
I'm flexible on Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays are hard for me right now. Wednesdays, it depends, as long as I know ahead of time. But if we do full, all day Monday, or all day Tuesday, or Wednesday, I'm open.
And I'm not totally married to them being back-to-back, because that might be a real scheduling challenge, but I will say as long as the majority of the council members can be there, we all have the opportunity to watch these, even if we're not participating, which is different than what we had before. What's up, Christian?
Sorry?
Yeah, a meeting in here? Is there a meeting in here after this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Come on in. Cop spot. Okay, so as long as the majority of council members can be on there, I'm not concerned about all 7 of us trying to fit, especially if they're broken up into different blocks. So we're going to do our best to get as many people on there as we can. And it's everybody's responsibility to go back and watch if they're not able to attend in person or in Zoom. You know what I mean? Mr. Mesa?
Yes, we able to, if we can't do it in 1 week, can we do one, like 2 weeks?
We'll have Chris Wright and Elise Roche, and possibly can work with y'all to coordinate how we will actually get through this with the 6 Zooms. If we can do them all on 1 day or 2 consecutive days to complete them, that would be preferential as opposed to splitting it out over the course of a couple of weeks.
I do agree with that. Any other comments from council? Everyone feel good about the process? Here we go again. Okay, thanks everyone. I won't see you, I'm sorry, Ms. Golding.
I do have a question. So once we do the screening, then what's the process for us to determine who the finalists are?
We would need to either come back to a briefing or a regular council meeting and receive direction. So depending on when the Zooms take place, the next available opportunity that all council could get together, we probably have an item in front of you to tell us which candidates you want brought in for final interviews.
I like that because I want to make a comment with the last process, how we did the city attorney. I like the ability to be able to think over the candidates after we've heard from them. And what we did that time was we made a decision right then and there that day. And so just personally, that's how I feel about it. And so I do like having that time. So once we've done the screening, then we have an opportunity. And if we want, we can go back and listen to them again. So that sounds good. Thank you.
Ms. Dumont?
So this is a question to Ms. Golding. So are you also suggesting that we have a little bit of a delay between the face-to-face and the final decision?
Possibly, just because, I mean, unless there's a standout candidate, I mean,
I think we'll plan to build in enough checkpoints that we won't move forward unless the council is comfortable moving forward. And this is only the second time we've ever done this as a city, so I think that's fair to make sure that everyone's comfortable before we proceed to the next step. Sound good? Do we have any other meetings this week?
So we have a lot of meetings.
Do we have any other city council business meetings?
She's like, she has something.
Mike?
Yeah, just a reminder for council, Deputy City Manager Nelson and I will be out of the office Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We will be in Orlando for the Florida City County Managers Association Conference. We are on the clock, so we are reachable by email and cell phone, especially for emergency issues. If, however, there is just a daily issue that pops up, something normal, If you go through the normal chain of command with either Chris Wright or Lisa Broche, they will get it to the right department director. And we are leaving Public Works Director Dennis Barron in charge of the day-to-day operations while we're in Orlando. Just letting you know.
Dennis has fingers, toes crossed. I will be missing our next council meeting on Monday due to the Fletcher graduation, which will be taking place in Jacksonville Beach this year, since it's at the football stadium, which is kind of unusual, but, so have fun without me. Anything else? All right, have a great night, everyone.